Konnichiwa! Alright, this week we're going to talk about ELI5. What is that? And how does it apply to you and learning your second language with your kid? Teaching, whether to a real person, a blog, shoot, it can be the wall, is the single best way to turn learned knowledge into acquired knowledge. And acquired knowledge is knowledge that belongs to us. That's right, that we have command over it. And in a single word, that's fluency. And that's the goal, right? So I want to talk to you today about acquired knowledge versus learned knowledge. Learned knowledge is when you pick up a textbook and you actually sit there and you read it, you're comprehending it, you're learning your vocabulary words, you're reading them, you're writing them 10 times. A good example of learned knowledge is learning the math charts when you're a child. You know, your teacher gives you the drills, 1 + 1 is 2, 2 × 2 is 4. And you're going over them, but it's not until she keeps giving you those pop quizzes, making you recall them. She keeps, giving you tests every Friday on it. Your mom gives you tests of homework. And that's when you're turning that learned knowledge into acquired knowledge. Acquired knowledge is you know it. That's it. It's part of you no matter what. When somebody says 6 × 6, you say, that's right. You say 36. All right now. So that's acquired knowledge. And with language, it's really important to turn that learned knowledge into acquired knowledge. So when you're having a conversation, it can flow out of you, fluently. That's right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how using ELI5 is going to help us turn that learned knowledge into acquired knowledge. What is ELI5? The acronym ELI5 stands for Explain It Like I'm 5. Yep, we're going to take a concept and we're going to simplify it down to the lowest learning level. You got it, like I'm 5. Freeman came up with this concept to turn that learned knowledge into acquired knowledge. So let's talk about it. Basically, you're going to take a concept, which might be, in our case, a section of our language learning. That might be chapter 1 of your textbook, chapter 15, whatever grammar point you're on. If you can take that concept and explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, great. That means you have successfully converted that to acquired knowledge. Now, if you're having a little bit of trouble trying to break that down to a 5-year-old, then try using an analogy to paint a picture for them so they can see what you're trying to explain to them. Now, if you're still having trouble or you were having like holes in your theory to begin with, trying to break it down, then you should be able to pinpoint your knowledge gap. And you can see exactly where you need to go back in your studies and where you have a hole in your learning, and that's what you need to focus on the next time you go and study. So this concept will change your learned knowledge to acquired knowledge, and that's what we need to fluently speak when we're in a conversation, because conversations are going, and you need to have control over the language so that it can flow out of your mouth as quickly as you would like it to. So now let's jump into how this applies to you and learning with your child. How does ELI5 apply to my second language learning process? Okay, I want to give you 2 ways that this applies to you. The first is your own personal studies. So when you go to try to explain it like you're 5, one of the main purposes is to pinpoint that knowledge gap. If you're able to pinpoint that, like I said earlier, you can then know what to study, and that's important. So an example is like with your child, of course, when it's raining and you go outside and you want to explain to your child that the ground is wet, be careful, don't run, the ground is wet because it rained. But you're having a hard time putting that sentence together. So you cannot explain it like it's 5. Therefore, we know we need to go back and we need to study some why grammar, some because grammar, some if-then grammar, and then the next time it rains, we can be prepared and ready and know how to say, please don't run, it's wet out. Why? Because it rained last night. Okay, so that's why I think that ELL5 is important, because it's always important to be able to explain in your second language what is going on with you and your child within your environment. So if you're like, hurry up, let's eat because your food's going to get cold, I want you to be able to say that in your second language. You need to be able to say the things that are happening around you guys right now. So it's okay not to go, verbatim by the grammar book sometimes, because you just need to find the concept and the grammar that works for you and your family and your lifestyle. So try to pinpoint that knowledge. Find the points in the day that you're having trouble finding the words for, and then look up that grammar that you need. Study it, YouTube it, Google it. If it's Japanese, ask me. I'll try to help you as best I can. So that's my first way of how I think ELL5 can help you. And the second is more specific. What we're going to talk about is how ELL5 can strengthen your language process. I think that it will, because you have to basically do the process of ELL5 every day with your child when you language learn with your child. If you were not language learning with your child, you would have more time on your hands to study, for one, but you also wouldn't have that daily speaking partner, right? Unless you married her. But I didn't. So you're going to talk with your child every day, and basically you're going to have to figure out a way to change those grammar techniques and those vocabulary words that you're learning at night or in your free time, how to explain it to a literal 5-year-old. My son is 4 and my daughter is 2, and I had to come up with a way to explain chan. Chan is like the proper way to do something, right? So it's like, when we say sit in your chair the right way, it's kind of like that. So how do I explain that to a 4-year-old or a 2-year-old? Like, are they going to get it if I just start saying it? How do I do it? So I kind of use this process of ELL5 to help wrap my mind around, do I know it well enough to be trying to give it to them, and therefore I need to step back, study it a little bit more, and then I was able to explain it to them, share it with them, use it in our daily life. And they picked up on it just fine. Kids are so smart. All right, so I really hoped you learned something. Google more about ELL5. I definitely love the mental thought process behind it, right? All right, so that's my 2 cents for the week. I'll see you next week. Johnny!